how do you account for this lack of participation and the replacement, of our leadership? Because I look around and I look at all the people that constantly have a microphone in their hand, present themselves as leaders and champions of the people, but I never see no understudies around them. I never see them preparing the next generation,
right?
For the struggle.
Right. That's a good question. I would answer a short answer, but it has a lot of stuff in it. It is the success of U.S. education that resulted in this generation gap when it comes to revolutionary consciousness. It is the success of the U.S. The purpose of U.S. education is to make sure that the people are not rebellious. It's their tribute to their success. We have to acknowledge that.
That's the institutional function,
right,
of education.
That's in the United States. Bourgeois education is to make sure that we ain't rebellious,
as opposed to the
education for liberation,
education to develop critical thinkers.
Right.
People be able to look at the world,
right,
and look at it critically,
right,
as a subject as opposed to being object.
Right. Was one of the things that happened under segregated education, where the vast majority of our people were confined to the South, under segregated education. Those black teachers, most of those black teachers, imparted critical thinking skills, right? Because they saw themselves reflected in those children, and they saw that they had to have a better future than what they had.
So they weren't just trying to create replacement parts for the machine.
No, that's what
education does.
Right. That's what the educational system was telling them. You got to make them good servants and so forth. But when you study education, black education in the South, when you study and you look at some people like Du Bois, he was the norm. Booker T. Washington was not. But because Booker T. Washington had the money and the connections with the Rockefellers and the Mellons, his stuff was being promoted. But there were cases,
non-threatening, but socially acceptable black man.
There were cases where black educators would side with Booker T. Washington, get the money, right? And when they knew white folks were coming, they had the children doing menial things. But when those folks left, they were studying. They were doing critical thinking. They were studying, European philosophy, political science, and these are, when you really look at the real deal in U.S. black education in the U.S., that's what you see. But we lost that with integration, and we a lot of our teachers, our great teachers, wound up in universities. White universities. Many of them who were also, at that time teaching in the high school, and they wound up in the universities. So
we lost that resource.
We lost that, and then that's the 50s, 60s. Now we're talking 40 years later. It's a whole new generation of educators who don't have that kind of background, who've come through, black educators who've come through the Negroization process of their schooling.
Yeah, but this educational model hasn't only affected African Americans, it's affected the entire youth population in this country.
Absolutely. But it's horrendous. Like in New York City, here's a little bit of stat in New York City. 4th grade white kids, the percentage reading at grade level is 36%. 4th grade white kids.
That's when failure begins.
Right. It's 4th grade. Percentage of white kids reading at grade level. That's terrible, right? That says 6 out of 10 can't read. White kids in the 4th grade in New York City public schools cannot read. By the time they get to 8th grade, it's only 38% who read at 8th grade level. So it's no improvement. But when we look at our black kids, right, it goes from 16% in the 4th grade who are reading at grade level to 10% in the 8th grade who are reading at grade level. That's a crime. That's negative education. Right? By the time you're 8th grade, you can't read. You don't want to do anything but get out of here.
Drop out.
Right. And that's exactly what happened.
Drop it to the street, drop it to the underground economy, and go to prison.
Right. You know, so, you know, public education is horrendous for white American children.
Yeah.
Public education for black and Latino kids is a crime
Disaster
against humanity.
Yeah, that's what it is.